No. No. And good moments to everyone. I'm Dan Lutz, and I'm here with
Stefan Rowe, also known as Tank. How's that, Dan?
and we are
Dank. because of the deep content of our message.
Yeah, it's very dank messaging going on here.
Yeah.
And this is our 146/47, considering there was one that wasn't named that. Well, actually, there's others that were not named that, but probably 147th. But the one that was combined with the other day. So with Juanita, we were. I got off track, so people were watching on the wrong one. The next one, next Dank, as one was offset. But anyway, so let's get right into things, because I think we have some interesting topics to cover. You want to start off, Tank?
Sure. So I got to talk about this kind of lately. It's still a little sensitive. But actually, I guess the way we'll go into it is this. So I spoke to Kim today, and I was contacted by some, another group who doesn't fully appreciate who Kim is, and they're also kind of being managed a bit and blocked by the Chinese elders who, they don't realize are the Rothschilds, because they've actually blocked the Rothschilds, and they don't realize that it's all the same bloodline family. So they reached out to, say that they could help bring money on Ledger and things like that. And, Sorry, my sons are here. So, anyways, so basically, I got to be there on the phone and listen to her very thoroughly explain what's going on and what's kind of how it works at her level. And I've sat through many of these conversations, which is why I generally understand it pretty well. But I'm always amazed when I hear her go into it, right? Because you know she breaks this down so fluidly. So, and the way this other gentleman, he was very very sharp, very intelligent, and I'm happy to be working with him because I think he's got nothing but good intentions. And he's talking about bringing in money for humanitarian projects. Like oftentimes, lots of people do, but and he'd been through all these stages, just like Dan and I talk about all the time, right? Like going through all these stages to get to the level, and you're trying to figure out where does the money come from, right? Where do you finally break free where the money actually reaches the people, right? And I mean, I thought it was so telling of what they think of the people because it's such an ironic, kind of paradox. The all the money that would come out of the trust that was authorized by the trustees, the various trustees, like that we always talk about, the Clintons, the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, the Payseurs, all these different trustees. Well, they were entitled to a 2% administration fee, right?
Right.
But then ironically, that money that would come out for whatever project, like humanitarian project, in all the projects funded, all the humanitarian projects funded by the United Nations, it's about 2% that has ever actually made it to the people, right? And then you had the president from the Senate there in Haiti, and he said of the $15 billion, the billions of dollars that people donated from all over the world, he said 2% might have made it to Haiti, right, to the people. Maybe 2%, because you could rebuild Haiti with $15 billion, right?
Right.
And I just spoke, to some people in Haiti who are like, it is like a war zone still, because they've been experimenting on their genocidal, usury program, to basically wipe that whole country out, and they're trying to do the same thing every place else. But that was kind of one of their experiments. So anyway, so these individuals always come in, and they've gone through so much, and they have such great experience. They're like, this is the top, right? And even the email was like, you have reached the top of the world, right? And it was like that serious. And but then Kim, went through it, and they started talking about royal accounts and all these different things. And by the end of it, the gentleman got it. Was very receptive, and we're going to be working on it. And he's actually, he's tenacious, which I love, because it's nice to find other people that are tenacious and fearless enough to keep, knocking on doors, no matter whose door it is, until they get to open. So, so we got a response of what was going to happen. And the gatekeeper, though, she kind of rolled her eyes and was like, yeah, I know who Kim is. She's like, and then she was like, I talked to the Chinese elders, because people think the Chinese elders are really important, right? But the Chinese elders were what the head, the individual that Kim replaced, and she made sure to make a point of this. It's $2 quarters too. But the individual that Kim replaced was that he actually, he referred to the Payseurs, the Rothschilds, the Chinese elders. He referred to them as the slave masters, right? To him, they were just slaves. In my point, that's exactly how he saw them. So It's so interesting because here Kim is. She sits in that exact same seat, right? Mm-hmm. She has the same authority, the same rule, but because she's benevolent, she won't violate these laws to force people to do things, right? So it has to be our choice. So in that, she explained, she goes, she's like, where you go to do this, she's like, I sit above that, right? Like her seat's above that. And so it was just really fascinating because this was really, really more, I mean, even more high up than, aside from Kim, who's really been at the top, but, Kim has always been the anomaly, right? Kim was at the very top of the pyramid, and she went against the previous protocol, came down to the bottom to kind of pick us up so that we could grow up from the bottom as she's coming down from the top. And today, actually, it kind of felt like in this, we had, details are not worked out, but they were very responsive. Immediately got back to us, and they gave Kim a basic protocol that any private, anyone trying to move money would use for private, private somebody who's wealthy with private money. But the problem with that is that she's not that. You have to treat her as an institution because she is the comptroller, the custodian, the trustee, and there's a fourth position she holds with the trust, right? Now, that's never happened. Even the previous comptroller wasn't the trustee, right? So she holds all the positions, for the first time ever. No one's ever had that, and that's in part because of the tribes weren't ready to kind of step up yet. But anyway, so she holds all these. So she actually holds the collective power of all of them, all by herself. And she kind of explained, how that worked. That all the funds go back here into this. They've all been gathered into this, and she's the only one left at the M1 level. Now the M1 was never really a title. They made it a title. But there was the M1 level. So that's just the monetary level. And she's the only one left. So I guess you could call her the M1 and but she would never do that. And it was a nice interaction too, because the gentleman kind of said he said I don't have any. He goes look, I treat everyone the same. He goes, I don't have any idols, so please no, I mean no disrespect. Now because he's used to dealing with hoity elders and royals who think that you should bow to them. But Kim's response immediately was, well, please don't. She goes, I appreciate that because I am no one's idol. She's like, I put my pants on just like you. I'm a regular person. I go to work and I do a job just like you. She goes, we just have different jobs. Now, for anyone out there in the global community who happens to pick this up and understand that, now imagine the same group that you are still working with, the Chinese elders, whoever these different, they always command and demand a certain this level of subservience,
right?
And I've seen it in the paperwork and the way they write, like we are this, all these different groups. At the end of the day, they're not in control, and there was, Kim was going through the order of line by line of how it would go, from the people, and then there was watchers and covens and then the parents and and then at the very top were the three, right? And she was kind of describing these things, and she talked about the watchers, right? And the watchers historically were the real elders, if I understand correctly. And the watchers were the ones who were just there to record history over time, and they had an extended life, and they were just around all the time. And at some point, they wanted to change history. So I believe, and again, this is, if I understood this correctly, they were killed off, right? But the individuals today that we were talking to were somehow connected to the watchers in some way. So it was really fascinating, that part of it. And now, what was exciting to me about what Kim has done, because Kim is while they're trying to figure out if they're going to work with us or not, which is you have nothing else to do, right? Your sole job in reality is to be at Kim's behest, right? I mean, that's what they should be doing. That's what everybody prior did when you had, Anu and Marduk and I don't know, Enki or whoever else was there. I don't even know who they were, right? Exactly. But the point is they would do whatever they said, right? Because they required worship. Now, this is what to me is really incredible, right? Is now you have someone in that same seat who doesn't require worship. In fact, doesn't want it, wants you to be empowered to go forth and be your own person and take these assets and put them to work, right? What a difference. Now, so I think about this every single day. Okay, well, if this is the person who has the ability to grant my freedom, so to speak, and let's just say we're already free from this, maybe not legally, but we're free because the leader who's at the top of the world, she has made it a free world. And because that, we're all free. Now, if that's the case, I ask myself this from time to time, what have I done with my freedom? Have I tried to recreate a broken system that killed, enslaved, and raped children and glorified violence and kept us in a nonstop state of war, right? And and I haven't, right? Because I believe our role is to change it. But so she went through these different things. Now, one of the things that happened, and one of the ways the banks have been able to evade collapse is that, and really, it's not about collapsing the banks and like regular people. It's about eliminating this group in the middle who has so much control, because she talked about the deal that everybody agreed to. Like all the CEOs, they wanted $100 million, and then they wanted and then she talked about, I think this is where it was like a 20% payout on every dollar for this long, and she came to terms, whatever the terms were, right? But she was talking about those kind of little details for a moment, and to me, I was kind of like, hell no when I heard those terms, right? But but again, they're so greedy, they're so just I don't even know what the word is, but they're just so convinced that they're so deserving of something for doing nothing, right? Because they don't know how to do anything else but mess up the system, right? They created this cannibalizing system, and not one of them really understands banking. And see, so Kim refuses to allow them to have control because all they'll do is what they've been doing.
Right.
So now in this, she also talked about how every single person, every single birth certificate was registered to the trust as well. So you're talking about, it's not just the money, it's the souls, it's the people were registered to the trust. So to have her making decisions for all of us to give us freedom and liberation and prosperity, and re-engage our creativity and our natural connection to God or source, whatever that's priceless, right? She talked about different plants in different parts of the world, right, where they need to be brought out because they're the cure to the ailments, all these tragic ailments. And in that, I would say that aging is one of them, right? And she talked about these different parts. There's certain plants that are there; they're only in these places. But she knows where all of it is because all of those things are registered to the trust, right? So she knows where everything is. So finally, when she was going through this thing, she said how the banks have survived is because people. It gets down to a level where people get in the way. So she's been trying to bypass people so she can empower people, right? Because you have to. So she said people get in the way because they're threatened or promised money or whatever. Now, for everybody who's taking bribes, right, and you haven't been paid yet on your bribe, it's because they don't have any money. Now, worse than that, they don't even have bank credits anymore because all the banks are about 600% in the negative. So Kim baselined them. So now when they go to do credits, they can't give out credit below zero. So they can't just credit an account anymore.
They're stuck.
They have no money. So they're stuck. So I don't know how long they can possibly last. I would say that to me seems like
1 day.
1 day. Yeah.
It should last 1 day. If they can't issue credit, they're done. They cannot make one move. I mean, I guess they could claim a computer glitch for a couple days, right?
Yeah.
We are on the weekend. She stopped payroll on Monday, right? So that means this whole week, no one is going to be paid.
Yeah. I mean, no one should have been paid today, unless checks were pre-printed or something. But even that, it's a check. It's like, well, what good is a check? You go to. I'm sure they probably printed up checks, and then you go to deposit it, and it doesn't clear indefinitely. Because I mean, these guys are living day to day, like delaying another day, right? So, there's no money there to back anything up. So there's zero money, like zero. So the only thing they have even to function, I guess, is like payments coming in from, different things. But then you got to think all these banks had major investments in Deutsche Bank, right? And they're crashing. So what does that mean for all the other banks? Because I mean, Deutsche was like, it was like Deutsche derivatives, right? So they were so negative in their derivatives, and derivatives are they're nothing. They're just they're just debt instruments, that you're calculating and putting on your books to show your worth, but they're actually a negative worth,
this financial system was set up to cannibalize itself, right? But it's already gone through the bottom level, right? It's now at the bank level where these big banks are going to cannibalize each other. Deutsche Bank is due to be gobbled up by another bank. It's already announced. So this is already the cannibalization of that banking level, right? So it's just winding up. So this is the time that they should be coming to the table and say, okay, let's go. You want to do it a different way. We recognize the system is under new management. That's what they should be saying.
They really should be, and that's the only real reason why I'm repeating it here, is just to be like, and I will say a million times, because I just feel like it's empowering to put it into the ether and in the universe, that the money has to come in to the people directly. And there is absolutely no royal on this planet except for Kim, who I will even acknowledge as being, above us, any of us in any way. And even with Kim, I don't even think she would accept us saying that she's above us. It's just the way she is. But I'll certainly not bow down to any Chinese elder or Indonesian prophet or anything else. It's just, I'm just, and it's not that I won't be respectful. I'm respectful to everyone. I make it a point to be. I have no problem with that. But you cannot have your lavish lifestyle, do whatever you want, hedonistically devour our children, and do it all at our expense, and expect us to say, oh, that's fine. But if you want to have a beautiful, lavish lifestyle and do all you want, and there's plenty that I can go do what I want, that's fine. I don't mind that. You still can't hurt the kids, but for me personally, I mentally, spiritually, and emotionally, I draw that line in my heart every day. You will not cross this line. That's the charge of the militia, right? That's why every person who resides inside of the United States for America is charged with their responsibilities as a member of the militia. All of us. So I just think that's important to mention, and it doesn't mean that we have to, go carrying guns, right? Like, because you got all types of roles in the militia. Some people, sometimes there's nurses, and sometimes there's cooks, and sometimes, there's all types of people. But we all got to play our part, in my opinion. Because
Right.
if you're going to have freedom, if you're going to reap the benefits of being free, then you should certainly be willing to pay the price. And I don't mean by that a sacrifice. I mean, you should be willing to put your time in just to demonstrate an appreciation for what it is that you've been given, or that you benefit from, however you want to see it.
Well, I think there's a new role to be played by a new militia role, and that's a YouTuber.
The YouTube militia, yes, indeed.
Where you go out and you have roles. So some people are going to take the links and share them across the board. So if you have like dedicated, okay, we got 102 people. We have between 100 to 150 people watching us on this last couple of weeks every day on live. It goes up to 700-800. But we had commitment from everybody to take the link and share it every day. We would be getting the message out, right? But that is basically taking on a role of the militia, right? There will be also those that take up and do a broadcast, right? They go on and they talk about this and spread the word with their own words in the broadcast, and they can refer back to these broadcasts, but at least them repeating it also is then different and gets around those shadow bans.
Yeah, I agree, and I was thinking about this the other day when we were talking to Anitra, right? And I like kind of the way, I'm always looking at kind of expanding, my own way of thinking and others as well. And I appreciated just what her delivery would probably be like as a speaker. And I thought, wow, I really want her to understand this, because I'm sure her delivery is so much different than mine would be, right? So I'm not intimidated by that. I'm actually, I appreciate that because she's so much different. I don't have to change who I am, and she could be who she is, but we're still on the same team, and but I mean, there's certain things that are just, we gotta agree on the content somewhat, but I was
and
appreciating that.
and also have no fear of doing content, of speaking. Even if you're not good and you have added in the beginning, you just get better every time. I still fumble over things. No one
Yeah.
is perfect. So just laugh about it and move on. And you'll start with a few people and you'll gain over time. You'll get hundreds of people and thousands of people, but at least that message gets out. And all you've got to do is talk. Even you can team up. It's good to have a conversation with someone like I'm doing with Tank, right? We talk back and forth, so you can team up into teams. You can get 2 or 3 people together. Look, we got Tui on. So Tui, you do have the link, just so you know. So if you get together in little groups and just talk about this online, we will spread this out. We did this in the Kringle Society, and we did within a matter of about 3 months. I think we had around 20,000 people that did videos about the Kringle coin. So it just takes this repetition of saying what we're going to talk about, and just take what we're saying and put it in your own words and move it out. Maybe, and then we can correct it. Don't worry about being wrong. We get back and we correct it, but at least we get out the main concept, so that we're free now. We have someone on our side that's gifting back all of the asset that was registered to the trust over these last however many hundreds of years. And we have
amazing,
people
really.
And having people come to the table that were from the table. It's interesting to see these things are lining up. So we need to get this information out. So please just let people know.
I'm in, Dan. I'm going to go out and make sure that people know. I promise. Okay. I have taken what you said to heart, and that is why we have been so successful. See, all you got to do is just listen to Dan, and that should be your next show, by the way. Is hey,
just listen to Dan. Okay,
just listen to Dan. Just listen to Dan.
Listen to the Dan Lutz channel. How about that?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
I don't want to get an inflated ego. I'll just float away.
No, man. Are you kidding me? I say this all. First of all, I tell people all the time, I'm like, I'm unpuffable, right? Like, you can't puff me up. Like, you're not going to, get me like, wow, you're so smart. I'm going to be like, listen, I'm not going to be persuaded because you think I'm smart. Or
what flashed in my mind?
What's that?
I flashed in my mind is from Ghostbusters, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Exactly. But you get all puffed up like, well, I'm the senior marshal of the Grand Funking Circus, and like whatever that, we think we're important, right? But we just have a job, leaders are just one job on a team, right? Like if you're the quarterback, it's just your job. It doesn't make you better than anybody else.
And I've got my you talked about those titles. So I'm the Grand Commissioner of Create Change for Asia, for Southeast Asia.
That's right. The Grand Commissioner.
Now, right? Grand
That's right.
Commissioner. So,
do not forget this great responsibility as you move forward. You're going to change the world. The Grand Commissioner. So we're going to send down T-shirts for that. So it's going to be nice. Like, I know the Grand Commissioner.
Grand Commissioner on the T-shirt, right? It's just like FBI agent.
I think the T-shirt will probably say, like, I'm the Grand Commissioner of Create Change, and all I got was this T-shirt.
And website money. And no website money. I guess not. Right. I only get the T-shirt. Well, I think probably a little more than that. I think Tank is muted for a moment. I may be getting a call. So yeah, a lot happening, a lot moving forward. So we can look forward to seeing, I think, these funds being released with this new group that is recognizing that the scenario that they've been working under, they were also in a compartment, right? Remember, the whole system is compartmentalized. So a lot of them don't even know when they start figuring it out. That's why there's banks waking up and they're saying, "Listen, and they're upset, right? They say, "Hey, we need to have access to the funds." And so the banks wake up and they contact and say, "Hey, we have to have access to the funds. We're the big guys. We'll help you guys out." But who are they coming to for the money at this point?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, you're back.
No, I was listening. But it's funny too with banks. It's like there's because you control is such a drug. I guess it's like you control all these people's livelihood. You think that you've done something great. It's amazing to me. Like lots of people do the exact same thing, and if you were to take people all on the same exact path, well, at the end of the day, if they all did the exact same thing, got the same grades, had the same abilities, it's like it's still going to be like this group, use that same recipe, and they're successful, and that leads to arrogance, and like we're better. Another group uses the exact same recipe, and they fail, and they're never allowed into the club, right? That's a part that is very frustrating in general, right?
Yeah, it's not fair in any way. That's why I've often spoken about open architecture, meaning that everyone has a level playing field. It's a real level playing field, so you have to work from that basis. Otherwise, that corruption just keeps getting worse and worse till we end up where we're at today. We need to do that. And you were talking about control, and it reminded me of this saying. If you want to make God laugh, you just tell him your plans.
Yeah, tell him your plans, right? I love it.
So,
Yeah.
You can't really control anything, and that is another illusion. You can inflict misery on something, but it just causes a different reaction to happen, and you think you can keep building walls and keep putting levers and gears in place that you could mechanize everything to the point where it will only do what you say, and it won't work. It never will, because the life is organic. It will stream forth. It will. The more you contain it, the bigger the explosion in the opposite direction will be. Right. So and then we're in the exploding out phase right now. We're in the Big Bang. we're bringing forth abundance right now.
We are bringing forth abundance, and I'm excited. I feel very connected. I'm very grateful to be part of it, and grateful to have a venue to speak, and grateful that people actually listen. For a long time, we like people would talk about how, and I always looked at this as like a trick, that they would use to put it back on the people, right? So they do all these horrible things, then they tell us our frequency isn't high enough, right? Like, so we're too much about the money. It's like, listen, you're the one driving around a Bentley while I'm in my Gremlin. Like, chill out, buddy. I'm not thinking that much about the money. I'm thinking about how do I get your car. But but I just think it's so interesting. It's like, now, Kim talked about how she took the whole system and she made it completely powered by source. And instead of being a binary system, which is ones and zeros, right? One being essentially representing the all and zeros being the absence of, right? And she talked about how she turned it into a trinary system that uses twos and threes and fours and sixes and sevens and nines, and and she's got to throw out some numbers, so I'm not sure if she was just trying to say all the numbers or if there was a specific sequence she was using, right? But she was making the point that now this is a trinary system, right? And that the way it's designed is that everything is designed for humanity to prosper and to thrive. Everything about it. So I just, these are things I've heard from her before, but it was very interesting.
Yeah, I actually dealt in a trinary architecture with some Russians that were developing a trinary computer system it came out of their space program. And it basically was, you said ones and zeros. The other way to look at that is yes or no. But the third option was maybe, right, which meant all the possibilities. So when you don't have a yes or no, you have a maybe. That third state is how this computer would operate. But anyway,
Right.
but
And that actually rejuvenates. That actually rejuvenates free will, right? Because therein lies the, like, that's what a real, quantum system is, right? It's computing all of the probable or all of the possible realities that could take place based on this decision, right? Then you multiply that by billions and billions and billions and trillions of decisions being made every single day, and calculating how this decision will affect this decision, this decision, this decision. This will probably be what happens, right? Here's the probability. Here's what's most likely going to take place. So I just look at that now. If you had that kind of knowledge that extended out beyond time and space, forward and backwards, extending through all universes and dimensions, right? And that's how the quantum mapping system is. That's how it works, right? That's what it's doing. And Kim is directly connected to that. I feel like anybody that calls, I just always find it funny when people call and say, they're the boss. But today was definitely the closest I ever came to someone who actually, like, you're pretty close to it. Yeah. Like you're probably right there at the top, I guess. Yeah. Right beneath Kim.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well, and those Chinese elders that they have to talk to as well, right?
Slaves, head slaves.
Oh, but they were still, were they over the head slaves or below the head slaves?
No, they were just a group of slave masters, but they were slaves.
The people that you were talking to.
No. I'm sorry.
That's what I'm trying to.
They were above the Chinese elders because they.
Okay.
And they had already banned the Rothschilds. Like they banned them from working, but what they didn't realize, I'm like, well, the Chinese elders are just, the Rothschilds are a different name, but they're the same group, same family.
Right. So what did they say to that?
Oh, the gentleman we spoke to was wonderful. He got it right away. We talked later, and we were both excited because it's encouraging. Because you think there's so many people that you run across a lot of people who are really motivated and know what's going on, but you don't really. So when you meet somebody else who's really dedicated, and inspired and fired up, it's it's encouraging.
Mm-hmm.
And connected, by the way. That's always a help.
Interesting. Well, I think, if they're able to go ahead and move acid into the system without any problems, then this should be a very quick experiment, right?
He actually said the banks could never refuse. They could not do anything. They could never refuse the money or stop this organization.
Well, well, let's do it.
Well, so then remember, there's a gatekeeper, though, right? So he works directly with the organization, right? Speaks on behalf of them, and but yet he has a gatekeeper who stands in the way. And she said she knew who Kim was, but she was totally underwhelmed, right? And she goes and said something like, "I spoke to her," and he called her out immediately. He goes, "No, you didn't." He goes, "You didn't speak to her because I asked her," right? He goes, and then she goes, "Well, I speak to the Chinese elders." So immediately, there's your problem. The Chinese elders are like everywhere, man. They're like gremlin roaches. I mean, I don't know how it is. Like they're everywhere, and disrespect was intended on that. So they are. I mean, they're everywhere.
Well, there is a billion Chinese.
Yeah, but Chinese elders. I mean, aren't they?
Well, but I mean, proportionally, there's going to be quite a group that's elderly, right? And how old do you have to be an elder, and what position you have to be to have that position? The families get pretty wide and broad, and that.
No, but it's not though. It's it's a very specific bloodline of, just because you're older in Chinese doesn't make you a Chinese elder.
I don't know, but how many
I mean,
Chinese elders are there? There's 1,000 of them? Is there 10,000 of them? 100 of them? 12? 13?
I don't know. Yeah, good point. But anyways,
I've described the one elder that I had my dealings with, and the sub elder, you might say, the one that actually did most of the meetings and drinking of the rice wine.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. But
Well,
yes.
so we were talking, and one of the things he said is, well, ultimately, your code will have to match their code. And he goes, when those codes match, he goes, then it's all set, right? So, but here's the thing. So Kim goes, she immediately jumps in and goes, our codes will not match because I've changed all the codes. I've taken all the bunkers and cleared them out over the course of about 5 years. All the vaults are empty. I've moved them all back to their RNA location, their original origin of where they belong for the time being. Right? And she explained this, right? She goes, so the codes won't match, right? So this is my one time I chimed in. I was like, well, but Kim, you have every single code book that's ever been used throughout history. So they could literally say any account they want, like, the Alpha Omega from whatever, the Dragon Dynasty Trust from Ming Chao. It doesn't matter. She has all of the code books ever, and I've seen them. I mean, she sent me pictures of them. So, I mean, she has all the code books. So, whatever they wanted, they could name the account, and she said, "Here's the code," right? Just to prove who she is, right, and that she is the absolute control because she makes the codes in real time. And the thing is if they're bringing money, and they're talking about bringing money from the off ledger on ledger, but the reality is they're not bringing money off ledger on ledger. What they're doing is they're bringing money from a ledger, right, that is off ledger, such as there's 6 of them in total, I believe. There's the banks. Now, banks all have their off ledger accounts, right? This is where they, hide money and hide their fortunes
the
and
private side.
Steal. Yeah, like they steal money and then they put it there. Then you have the IMF, right? Then you have the Bank of International Settlements. Then you have the World Bank, the United Nations, the Treasury, which
Vatican
is actually and the Vatican, yeah. So the Vatican Bank and the Treasury. Then all of those off-ledger accounts have to match the master account, which is the unknown country, which is the trust. So you can take all the money off of those accounts. You can pull it off from the back ledger. If the asset doesn't reflect it at the source, at the master, you didn't really move anything. You just moved numbers.
Right.
So that's the truth.
And that's why nothing moves. And that's why nothing comes down. And it hasn't since 2008.
Right. So,
but they keep moving around the reuse numbers and the quantitative easing and such to inflate the system.
Right. Well, and they can't really, because what they can't do is they can't introduce any new money, right? Like you said. So you try to bring in new money, and the system immediately will go off. No, that's old money.
Right.
That's money that's been there. Because even when money goes out, right, it has to be like if you put $1 million in the United States, $1 million has to be printed up in every other currency simultaneously. It all has to go out at the same time. So it stabilizes. That's how you stabilize the system.
Okay.
But
that's
they were going to do
lopsided because they don't do that.
Right.
Yeah. It all gathers in one place then, right? So that's why the system isn't abundance. It removes wealth from one area and brings it to another.
Right. It's like pushing your food around, but you never actually eat it. It's like that's all they do.
Yeah. and then it can only last for a certain period of time because you're still getting hungry.
Right.
And then no matter how much is on how much you moved around, it's still not enough to quench your thirst or your hunger. That is rather.
Right. Right. So.
Can we keep this in there? Keep this going. All right. Um, so anything else we should cover? I know that you said you may have to jump off. So are you?
No, I don't know. Nothing else that's pressing on my mind. I mean, I just want to share that. And I didn't mean to take so much time, but it was so interesting.
No. I remember. I just looked. It was 11:30. So I didn't want you to miss if you had something else because you're normally doing another broadcast. So I don't want to step on it. And make sure we get all the relatively great information. I mean, this is fantastic news, actually. This is, everyone should make sure to share this link, get it out there, so people know that these things are moving forward. I also see that our new defense Secretary of Defense is now in place.
Yeah, it's exciting.
So does that have? Did that come out?
She told me this too. Now the Pentagon has been really aggressively assisting and working and trying, and even they're like, what? They don't know what to do. They have $65 billion in base repair, which I would imagine that's probably because the deep underground military bases have been blown up. So I mean, something that I'd factor into some of these natural disasters for whatever reason, which I don't know, by the way. And that's total speculation, by the way. I've heard things like that. Kim didn't say that. But I know she did say there's $65 billion in base repair alone, and the Pentagon is trying to bring this money in. And they can't, right? They've cleared it to get to the bank, and they're being blocked. And this is the tragedy that just drives me nuts, right? Kim said this today, and I don't know. Like, maybe she was just saying it, for the people who, like, listen to the calls. But she's like, everybody's on board. Everybody in the Treasury's on board except for Steve Mnuchin. And I'm like, I feel like that's ridiculous. Like, come on, Steve Mnuchin. Like, what is he doing? And I just picture Steve Mnuchin, like, sitting there in the Treasury, like Zora, right? And he's got, like, a headband on with, like, a diamond in the middle of it. And he's like, receive. He's like, I'll do whatever you say, my ascended masters. And just, I mean, like, how is Steve Mnuchin a threat to anyone? Like, it's just, Mnuchin.
Yeah. Well, it's shouldn't at that point then since we have the new Secretary of Defense able to now, move some money around, but are they having any success moving that money? Or somehow it's being stopped still?
Well, according to today's conversation, it's still being stopped by Steve Mad Dog Mnuchin, who's he's
did this come up during this conversation with these these members? So what did they say about Mnuchin? Do they have any say over him?
I mean, Mnuchin, they're above Mnuchin. So what they said is we don't work with the Rothschilds. I mean, Mnuchin is just an extension of the Rothschilds, and they said there's no bank that can refuse the money that we bring in. They said no bank would dare. Is what they said actually. So I don't know. It seems to me like they don't really have respect for any kind of laws.
Oh, I got one for you.
Okay.
You can remember your money that went into Wells Fargo and they never released to you, and you're going to go after them with a lawsuit.
Yeah.
Did you tell them to go ahead and release that?
Oh, believe me, I'm on it. But I know Kim. She left it sit there for maybe 6 months, and she pulled it back. Now she left some other deposits. She left them sit there several times, right? And these it's kind of like the way I understand it is like the BIS, right? If you don't go through a specific protocol with the bank when you transfer large amounts of money, like you have to send, an email letting them know, like, call and response kind of thing, like I'm ready to send, are you ready to receive? This is what I'll be sending. And most people don't do that. They just transfer money. So if you don't do that and it gets lost in compliance, the BIS is like set up so they can just take it and scoop it out. Because everybody's compliance, I don't know, area is all the same. That's why you always have these, guys that are money laundering. They're always trying to use these like oh, we're gonna use the MT-10365 system. We're gonna bring the money down using this batch. Like these are assets from, some weird group down in Indo Africa somewhere, and they're gonna take them down. They're always trying to find ways to hack those assets down, but you can't. They're not really there. So,
all right. So, so then the test is going to happen, very soon. Then.
Yeah. Oh, so the one thing is, they try to put it through like what all of us would do if we were doing it. So they wanted a KYC and like a picture, the account, what banks the money is held in. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, first of all, I know you don't know what you're talking about. That you think the money's in a bank, right?
Right.
As soon as I saw that, right, I'm like, that's
Right.
what you give to regular dudes who they think the ledger is the off ledger is held by Deutsche Bank, right? It's like because Deutsche Bank has tons of money in their off ledger. They shouldn't be going down, but it's all money they embezzled from Iran somehow. I forget. Kim explained it to me once, but it's something to do with Iran though.
Right.
So it's like so when they said that, I immediately called up the guy. I'm like, and he immediately said, I know. She doesn't get it. He's like, could you just give me a response right away so I can let them know, and it will go to the right people. So I believe Kim responded right away. I actually had responded. I wrote up a very lengthy response, but to define Kim's the absolute authority on these things. This gatekeeper doesn't have the right to stop anything. So I always want Kim to come on television like anonymous. It just be like, you have all been lied to. It just break it down. Like V for Vendetta, and every television is just Kim saying.
Well, that's a good show to do. Let's propose that to Kim.
I'm always proposing it.
Yeah, do the dramatic, cuts, and the dramatic music and dun dun dun, express the, this is where they're lying to you, and this is the way it really is.
Yeah, good. Just like that. So that's what I got, man. I gotta jump on this other thing, and have a good night. Everybody have a good night.
Yeah, everyone. Thank you for joining. This is Dank 146. Some people talk about 147 link and such. I know we're off. I'll see if I can fix the scheduling because I did them all in a row and then we got off track because we kept. Tank came on the front lines and we kept that as the one show for the day instead of doing two shows. So that's why it's off. So I'll see if I can fix the scheduling and maybe I have to renumber some things or something. We'll see. I don't want to renumber too many things. It's quite a lot of renumbering to do. Anyway, thanks, Tank, and everyone for joining. And I look forward to everyone coming back tomorrow. Be sure to share the link. Please subscribe at the wwg1wga.love site. $1.11 a month, $8.88 a month, or $99.99 a year helps. Keep these things rolling out and getting. And I have some expansion plans I'd love to get rolling on. So, all right, thanks everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow.
All right, have a good night.
All right, bye.